Ffion bach, is that you? She pulled off her beanie and smoothed her hair back. So Nerys was still calling her Bach after all these years, even though she wasn't so small these days. But then, it had been more of a term of endearment than a physical reference after she'd reached adulthood. Hi, Nerys. Ffion moved her lips into a smile as the duty manager hurried across the kitchen and placed her hands on Fion's shoulders. Oh, Bach, look at you! So good to see you, but... Nerys pressed her lips together, evidently controlling herself. Yes, it's good to see you. Your Mam and Dad will be glad you're home. Thank you. Ffion looked behind Nerys at the staff in the kitchen and gave a small wave, which they returned. Lots of changes here over recent years, but I'll introduce you properly to everyone once you've settled in. Nerys's green eyes were shining, and Ffion knew she wanted to say more. But the duty manager was ever the professional, used to controlling her emotions, even with irate guests and grumpy delivery people. You go on through, Ffion, and if you give me your car key, I'll get your things taken to the cottage. Ffion was about to argue that there was no need, but knew that organising was Nerys's way of showing she cared. So she got the key from her bag and handed it to the older woman. Thank you. There's not much, really. Just 2 suitcases and a few boxes. Is the rest of it following? Nerys frowned. Ffion shook her head. I didn't want to bring much with me. Travelling light. She gave a small laugh, even though inside her heart was aching. Go and find your mam. She's desperate to see you. Ffion nodded, then passed through the kitchen and into the restaurant. She hadn't been back in 2 years, because life in Scotland had been so busy. Then Graham had become unwell, and leaving Scotland and his side had seemed impossible. Rounds of tests had followed their initial attempts to ignore his condition. If we ignore it, perhaps it'll go away. Then treatments, more tests, and hushed conversations with specialists that never seemed to provide the answers Ffion had wanted to hear. However, being back in the hotel now, passing through rooms she'd walked through so many times before, she could almost pretend that none of it had ever happened. She was 18 years old again, embarking upon an exciting degree in PR and media at Swansea University, while working evenings and weekends at her family's hotel. Happy, healthy, enthusiastic about life. She closed her eyes for a moment, keen to grab onto that feeling, if only to escape the pain for a moment. Ffion! The voice snapped Fion's eyes open, and there she was. Petite, brunette, arms open wide. It had been so long. Too long. Ffion staggered forwards into the woman's embrace. Oh, Mam. Chapter 2. Settled in front of the log burner at her parents' cottage on the hotel grounds, Ffion cradled a mug of tea between her hands. She'd gone to the hotel because she'd known her mam would be working, but had hoped she would be able to find some time to have a cup of tea and a chat. After her mam had hugged her in the hotel restaurant, she'd told Ffion to go over to the cottage and get the kettle on, and she'd be right behind her. That had been half an hour ago, and Ffion was still alone and on her second mug of tea. It was what Ffion and her older sister Mari had come to expect, growing up with both parents owning and running a popular hotel. Their parents were warm and loving, had given them everything they could want, but they had both worked hard, and the family business had to be prioritised unless there was a major emergency. It was one of the reasons why Ffion had stayed in Scotland in the time immediately after Graham's passing, as well as the all-consuming numbness and shock, of course. She hadn't wanted to get in the way for her parents, had known that her presence would have taken their attention from the hotel, made them feel that they had to be there for Ffion rather than work, and she'd have hated to be a burden to them. She had also remained in Perth because she still had her job and home, and was clinging to her memories of her time with Graham. Unfortunately, returning to work too soon after losing Graham had led to a breakdown of sorts. It had all simply become too much, and Ffion had been overwhelmed. During that time, she had quit her beloved job as a communications and engagement officer for Dundee Council, despite her caring line manager's attempts to get her to take some time off instead. Unemployed, she'd spent days cooped up inside the home she'd bought.